I'm Susan Euler.
If you've ever watched late-night television, you've probably seen ads for starving artist sales. The paintings, which actually are oil paintings, were created by assembly line workers following a well-defined formula. More or less realistic landscapes and seascapes, colorful, semi-abstract flowers, and sometimes non-objective abstractions. The ads always emphasize sofa-size paintings. A sofa-size painting is a large painting meant to be hung over a sofa. It's not a term used by art historians. In any event, in past decades, these semi-original oil paintings had great appeal because they offered a chance to get a unique work of art at a very affordable price. Previously, the only affordable large paintings widely available were reproductions of famous works of art, and not everyone wanted that. While the starving artist sale has pretty much faded into the past, reproductions of famous works of art are still very popular. Today, you can buy online a reproduction of just about any artwork that is not copyright protected. There are several types of reproductions. One is a photograph of the actual artwork printed on canvas to mimic a real painting, or on paper. You can get them in all sizes, even sofa-size reproductions that are much larger than the original. But these reproductions are not meant to fool anyone. However, now things get complicated. You can also buy what are called replicas or copies. These are actual paintings created by copyists who are skilled artists themselves. They are not truly fakes or forgeries because they are labeled as replicas and have no forged signature of the original artist. This practice has been going on since ancient times, when wealthy Romans hired artists to make copies of famous Greek sculptures, such as the Doryphorus shown here. And all of these paintings are actually copies of original artworks. As you can see, they are very good. So good, in fact, that copies like these are sometimes mistakenly purchased by museums and collectors. This is why there is always so much careful analysis and controversy whenever a previously unknown artwork by a famous artist is discovered. So is it a bad idea to decorate your home or office with reproductions of famous works of art? No, not really, as long as you're not trying to pass them off as the real thing. I like to think of them as starter art. They give you a chance to see what kind of art suits you before you replace them with original works. The easiest way to start your collection of original art is to buy museum posters. You might be thinking, aren't those just the same as reproductions of works of art printed on paper? Not exactly. Here is a poster-sized reproduction of a collage by Picasso printed on paper. Here are two posters advertising exhibits of Picasso's work. Museum and gallery posters are designed by artists, and although many copies are printed, they are still original works of art. Picasso himself made posters. Since these date from the 1940s through the early 1970s, not that long ago, and a lot of them were printed, many still exist, and you can buy them. But be aware that thousands of reproductions were also made, and are still being made, so be very cautious if you are looking for an original print that dates to Picasso's time. This one is numbered and signed by Picasso himself. The numbers 60/168 indicate that this is the 60th print of 168 total prints made in the edition. A signed poster by Picasso is very rare. But are all 168 copies accounted for? I don't know. But if not, they still might be out there waiting to be discovered. In 1970, the Dayton's department store in downtown Minneapolis, Minnesota, housed an installation by pop artist Red Grooms entitled The Discount Store, a reference to Target, which is owned by Dayton Hudson. The installation featured cardboard products and cartoon-like painted wooden cutouts of people and cars. It was organized by the Walker Art Center, which is also in Minneapolis. The over life-size wooden cutouts of customers were inspired by people Grooms observed while visiting Target, including a woman selling donuts. Target used to have a bakery. The image of the so-called donut girl was featured on the poster. Now, fast forward 20 years to when I was a graduate student at the University of Minnesota, and the Walker Art Center gift shop was selling old exhibition posters at a discount rate. And what did I discover in the bin? Yes, an original Donut Girl poster. Wait for it. But this one was pencil signed and dated by Red Grooms himself. It's absolutely genuine. Its provenance is impeccable. This is the kind of thing I live for. An original work of art signed and dated by a famous artist. Grooms did not number it, however, so I don't know how many copies were made, hundreds probably. But how many were signed by the artist himself? Probably not that many. So, with all this in mind, let's begin your collection of original art, following techniques I have been using all my life. You may be under the impression that original art costs thousands, if not millions of dollars. That's only true if you want to buy art by a big-name artist, such as Van Gogh, Picasso, or perhaps Red Grooms. High-quality original art can be found at all price levels, in art galleries, art fairs, at student and faculty art shows, and even in thrift shops. I admit that I haven't found a lot of original art at thrift stores, although I constantly look. However, a few years ago I found this large framed and matted pencil drawing by well-known North Carolina artist and university professor Paul Hartley, signed on the back. It's his signature. I checked it with known signatures. The original price in 1974 was $1,200, but I paid far less. Let's just say it was practically free. But wait, before you buy artworks, even practically free, read up on art. Visit museums and art galleries. Watch videos on art history like that 10-Minute Professor. Here are some things you'll want to learn. First, quality. What does really good art look like? Lots of variety here. Second, what style of art appeals to you? Third, what are the various art media and how can you recognize them? For example, oil, acrylic, watercolor, pen and ink, pencil, prints, pastel, and lots more. Finally, how can you recognize an original work of art in any medium and get it for a good price? At first, you may do what I did and buy everything you can find in every style. That's okay. You can weed it out later, although your home will start to look pretty disorganized. Here's a 1960s living room from a design magazine. It may not be to your taste, but everything matches. But here's the same room filled with lots of good but mismatched artworks, such as a Tiffany lampshade and a 19th century landscape painting and chair. This is not the look you want to achieve. Once you establish your personal style and have learned to recognize good original art, how do you get the most bang for your buck? Here's what I recommend. It's far better to buy a few really good pieces than a bunch of cheap crap. Here's some ideas. Japanese woodblock prints are original artworks. Those that are pencil signed can be expensive, depending on the importance of the artist. But those that are signed as part of the print, on the plate is the correct term, or not signed at all, are surprisingly affordable, even those dating from the 19th century. Japanese prints are bold and colorful and fit into both modern and traditional decor. French Impressionist Claude Monet filled his house with Japanese prints. Van Gogh made his own versions of them. And since some older prints may be damaged by time, they are really inexpensive. You can mat off the damage if you want. New prints are being made all the time, and interesting vintage prints are also readily available. Look online, look in galleries featuring Japanese art, look in thrift shops and antique stores. You will find them. And the same thing applies to prints made by artists that are not Japanese. Fabric art is another idea. Molas are handmade textiles made by the indigenous Kuna people of Panama and Colombia, who are obviously artists. All the molas are different and beautiful in their unique ways. But if the colorful molas do not fit your individual style, original fabric art is made in every country and in every culture. Lots to choose from. Here is one of my fabric finds. This is a mid-19th century American hand-woven wool coverlet in the pine tree and snowball pattern. Although it is some 150 years old, it is clean and in museum-quality condition. The photo of Abraham Lincoln visiting General McClellan in his tent shows a similar coverlet. So, where did I get it? From a thrift shop. The cost? Practically free again. This will never be cut up and framed, of course. African mudcloth is another handmade fabric that is original art. But all African fabrics, even those that are mass-produced, are, in my opinion, art. And because you don't need to frame very much of it, even the most expensive fabric is cheap. Look for remnants. And do not forget vintage fabrics. This is a church vestment. It's not a religious relic. It belonged to my dad when he was in the church. And while we are on the subject of churches, here are 2 signed prints of St. James Episcopal Church in Sonora, California, where I was born. Both were created by well-known local artists who my parents knew. Another tip, always collect art made by your friends and buy from local artists, even if you don't know them personally. Book plates and old magazine ads also make great art. Those from the 1920s are especially good because they were often created by famous graphic artists such as Coles Phillips. And although I do not recommend tearing up valuable old magazines and books, if you run across those that are not historically valuable or are in really bad shape but have lots of interesting plates, that's another great source for art. As are these can labels, which I found in an abandoned fish factory in Monterey, California when they were remodeling Cannery Row. All sorts of interesting things like this are readily available to you as well, either free or for a very, very low price. Just start looking. And as for found art, quite by chance, as I was making this video, a friend sent me a package of old clippings from our college days, and among them were 2 photographs of the Saturn moon rocket. Aha, I thought, these would make excellent matted and framed prints. For the 10-Minute Professor, this is Dr. Susan Ray Euler. Thanks for tuning in.